Welcome, Gemini, to your Chiron into Taurus 3 month forecast for the ascendant, the sun, or the moon on June the 19th through to September the 18th. For an initial 13 weeks, Chiron, the so called wounded healer, returns to the earthly, practical Taurus for the first time since 1984. In my recent 50-year Chiron cycle video, I looked at the unusual orbit of Chiron and recapped his journey through Aries. Today, I'm going to put more of the emphasis on how we can work on healing our sense of self-worth, but also working on unlocking a greater sense of personal value. On the screen is the event chart from a purely Gemini viewpoint. By the end of the video, I'll unpack that and you'll have a clearer picture of how to grapple with Chiron in Taurus in terms of your energy, work, relationships, or finances. I'm astrologer Patrick Arundel. A very warm welcome. If you've yet to subscribe to my channel, please do so now to help it to continue to thrive. But please also click or tap the bell notification symbol. So Chiron is the so-called wounded healer, the wound we can never heal. Some astrologers do link Chiron directly to physical health, particularly when Saturn and Pluto is in the mix. I think we can work with Chiron most of all when we're thinking about how we can use our thinking in a different way and therefore through that thinking create different outcomes. And for you, Chiron has moved into your 12th solar house. And the irony is this is after Uranus has just left your 12th solar house, where it had been, all but for those 4 months last year, since full-time March 2019. And Uranus may have created a lot of nervous tension. If we're thinking that the 12th house can be about our health, particularly our psychological or emotional health, the opportunity with Chiron is to work on that area specifically over these next 3 months, but more broadly over the next upcoming 7 years from next April the 14th, when he returns for the longer haul. But on the event chart, it's intriguing that Chiron does link very well to the moon, but in the fourth house. The moon's in the sign of the Puritan Virgo, and therefore anything you can do around your immediate environment to make it as ordered, as tidy, and as restful and peaceful as possible will be very good in terms of healing energy. But it may also relate to the people you live with. If you're lucky enough to have good relationships with your fellow housemates or family members or your partner, that's also very conducive to using Chiron as a healer. But Chiron also links very well to the North Node sextile. And the North Node's been asking you over the last year and a half to really trust the process when it comes to your instincts as far as your connection to the world. And that is very much to do for many of us as far as our career or however we contribute or volunteer. But Chiron in that 12th house may evoke some anxieties because that's what the 12th house is about. And those anxieties may be around personal value, which is what Taurus is about. But Taurus is also about foundations. It's about what's solid. It's also about money. And if you don't feel that you have a solid financial foundation in your world, you'd have every right to feel really quite anxious about that. But the key is not to let the anxiety dominate us to the degree that actually we lose sight of the qualities we have. And it's intriguing that as Chiron moves into Taurus, Mars, the planet of thrust and drive, is in the sign of Taurus, but also forging an amazing link with your ruler Mercury and also Jupiter. So there are resources within you that may link back to past experiences, knowledge, a lot of accumulated ability that can actually be very helpful to enhance your sense of self-worth. But if you feel judged by people, if you feel in some ways inferior, that's the thing to work on with Chiron in the 12th house. Because it may be that if you're thinking like that, then people will think in that way about you. And that is, I feel, how Chiron works. Because Chiron, and you can download my free factoid underneath the video, was a life coach. And that life coach was someone who understood about mortal combat, he understood about astrology and astronomy, and also about healing through herbs. So Chiron in the 12th house is a wonderful opportunity to peer deep within your past, however sparkling and effervescent and funny and flexing many Geminis can be. If a lot of that is actually covering something that's much deeper and more profound, this is an opportunity to really start to work on it. And having the moon in a very supportive location and the North Node is something to behold. But what about the ruler of the sign of Taurus? Well, it's Venus. And Venus for you is in a fabulous location at the moment. It's in the flamboyant Leo, which helps you to up your ability to convey your ideas with great persuasion, but also great charm. But it is in an opposition with Pluto. And Pluto and Venus oppositions can create obsession. And Pluto can also be about power and also about money. So if there's something that you really want to get to cover up some time of perceived lacking, then that isn't necessarily a good thing. So Chiron in Taurus works in lots of different ways. I think for you, because it's the 12th house, that can also be the house of where we don't connect very well to people and where people perhaps have issues with us, even if they're not articulating them in an obvious way. I think we need to try and work at that inner sense of why do I need to perhaps in my outer world manifest or act out in a particular manner? Is it because something deeper isn't quite as at ease as it could be? And you know, if you really can look at that, and maybe it is to do with money, maybe it is to do with possessions, maybe it is to do with, you know, your diet or how you feel you appear in terms of your physicality. The more we can work at it, even if that is uncomfortable, the more we can release. And then things start to change around us. I must stress, I don't necessarily think that Chiron in the 12th house in Taurus, even if you work at it in a very applied way, is a panacea for perfection, because life just isn't perfect. We're always going to meet someone who doesn't get us. We're always going to meet someone who doesn't like us. We're always going to meet someone who's going to try and undermine us. And we can do plenty of that for ourselves through self-sabotage, thinking things down, being picky and self-critical, or not feeling that we're quite perfect. All of that can be very deflating anyway. So we need to really, I feel the most important thing for you is to work on self-soothing and your personal compassion about how much you value yourself. And if it goes beyond the ability to have quick, sharp, funny communication with people, but actually underneath that, there is something that is really sore, then that takes a lot of energy. One of the things that's always struck me, do you know, you can be somewhere and someone's incredibly funny, and but after they walk away from you, you might really like that person, but after they walk away from us, we're absolutely totally rinsed out. We're exhausted because they are a stress carrier, because they're not really in touch with their soul purpose. They're not in touch with that wound deeper down inside of them. So it's all covered up in the mask. And the mask is very skilled. They're very brilliant at that external uh, manifestation of coping and being able and so forth. But if there's something deeper within you that does need really tending and soothing, the 12th house can be a wonderful time to engage with personal development, with counseling, with psychotherapy, with astrology, anything which helps us to dive deeper down within ourselves and find out that our value sometimes can even be when we're vulnerable. Because, do you know, a lot of people I feel don't ever make really successful relationships, even if the successful relationships have their moments, is because they can't actually be vulnerable. They always have to be in charge of feeling very able, being perhaps manifesting a sense of being very successful or very quick-witted, But if you can't let that drop, you're not actually confident enough to let love in. So there's lots of ways that we can look at this in very, very different manners. But if you're feeling an emotional void, this is a great opportunity to really go for it in a proactive way. I'm going to summarize those 4 areas of energy, work, relationships, and finances next, Gemini. I've reduced the price of my personal horoscope reports. For many years, it was buy two, get 30% off. Because of the cost of living increases, I want to make them as accessible as possible. So it's now 3 for the price of 1. The one you pay for is your life roadmap report. That helps us to understand the patterns that play out in our life and get a more intimate understanding of them. And from that, then we can make better moves future forwards. 3, your unique 12 months transit forecast to time your moves, and then 3, also your draconic soul karmic analysis, which moves the North Node from your natal chart to the vernal point. Helps us to look at ourselves, astrology, and life in a very different way. If you've yet to watch my deep dive Gemini new moon video, please see that on the screen. My Jupiter no more blocks video, that's been absolutely phenomenal. Thank you if you have watched it already. And if you'd like to work with me one-to-one, please check out my testimonials below. Or if you've yet to sign up for your free daily written horoscope, fire to your device each morning for your early day celestial pit stop, that is below too. So all those things are below. So to summarize, as far as your energy is concerned, if you are feeling below par, you don't feel great physically or emotionally, do look first of all at nutrition, because Taurus is very much about food. And if there are some things, for example, that don't agree with you, I can't eat almonds. So almonds, almond milk just does not agree with me. But I found out about this through my rheumatoid arthritis and took an allergy test, and there was quite a few things that don't agree with me. So removing those from our diet or from your diet would be a very good thing towards that purity. Look to create moments of complete calm and be okay with it. Being one of the most flexible and amusing members of the zodiac, yes, you can get on with lots of different people, but it's how you get on with you that is the most important thing. So I think that moon position, along with the North Node, is really saying find peace within your own space. That will be very good for your physical and emotional vitality. When it comes to your professional situation, because the North Node is right at the top of your chart, it's challenged by Uranus in a T-square. I will do a video on this, and I think it's important for all of us collectively to know when to not be thinking, when not to be curious, which is very hard for Gemini because, you are someone with such an appetite to connect with different things and different people. But I feel that although Uranus does forge a very strong link with Venus, which is the planet of money and the ruler of the sign of Taurus, I think it's important to know when not to be engaging. And that again gives you a chance to focus on your physical, the moon and the south node in Virgo, and your emotional, the north node in Pisces, well-being. As far as really going for it in terms of your professional situation, if you are someone who is very open to change and technology, anything to do with training, publishing, having your own channel, promoting a particular message, you can do so with enormous, enormous power with Uranus in the trine with Pluto. That's very, very strong. But Venus in that opposition with Pluto also suggests when it comes to your love life that you could be finding someone over the next 3 months very, very hard to resist. Would it actually be somewhat of a secret, a secret connection with Chiron in the 12th house? Maybe. I feel that what is worth knowing is that Venus opposite Pluto can create obsession. And I think Chiron in the 12th house is really asking you to let go and not be attached to anything that gives you something to prop up some kind of frailty. So that's something to just be mindful of. But there could be some very colourful conversations coming or go in between you and someone else over these next few months. But financially, I don't feel we can argue that Jupiter, the planet of fortune, is being blessed by Mercury and Mars just at the very end of his journey through the sign in a way which just hasn't happened so far over the last 13 months of Jupiter's visit. And I think, therefore, you could have a significant breakthrough. And you know, that can be very good for your inner emotional well-being for sure. It's been a real pleasure being with you, Gemini. All the best, and look forward to seeing you again soon.